Hey, Classic Joey Mac here again. I wanted to talk about another topic that has really been around for a few years here, and it's why are they making, they meaning Hollywood, making so many sequels, reboots, prequels, remakes, whatever you want to call them. Let me put into perspective that I used to be a huge movie buff, loved going to the movies. I still love movies. I just don't go at all anymore, it seems. Maybe some of that has to do with prices being jacked up, but, I think the other part is there's just not a lot of movies that I feel are worth going to. Doesn't mean they're bad movies, doesn't mean they're good movies, just not drawing me in. The consumer. And then they make all these movies that I think are incapable of being better than the original. And as someone that grew up in their childhood was the late 80s, early 90s, and all of the 90s, I guess, it seems peculiar to me that they would continue to make things from that time period and continue to remake them when you're certainly not going to make me think that, for example, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that they're doing, it's never going to be better than the original. One, because you can't compete with nostalgia's sake. The original movie was just classic at a time where I was extremely impressionable, and everything about that movie was great, from the soundtrack to the people that were cast to do the voice acting, just the plot, everything. So certainly, when Michael Bay is casting people like Megan Fox to be April O'Neil, and you're trying to remake a movie from my childhood, you've already lost. Whether that's right or wrong, you've already lost. I'm never going to give it a shot. I'm never going to say it's better, even if it, graphically or I guess CGI wise, is probably going to be more impressive. I guess, maybe. I don't understand why you even try to remake that. I understand that maybe I'm not the target audience anymore for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Maybe the younger, definitely younger kids are. But why remake the Turtles? Why aren't industries making the next Turtles, the next whatever, craze, Pokemon, whatever you want to do? Why isn't that happening anymore? I don't understand. Why would we rehash something from 20 to 30 years ago, water it down, make it something completely different? It's because it's easy, I guess. But I kind of feel bad for kids today because you're basically getting a sloppy, watered-down version that has no bearing on today's culture in your world. That's what you're growing up with. And it just bothers me. It doesn't make any sense. There's 1,000 things that you could come up with. Literally, thousands of different ideas. Why would you take something like that? Why remake it? Transformers. How long did I wait for them to make a live-action Transformers movie? Since I was, 4 years old. When I watched it was like a frickin' Chevy commercial. It just didn't appeal to me, and maybe, again, I'm not the target audience anymore, and maybe I need to stop sitting on YouTube and crying about it. But I'm actually really just posing the question. I'm more intrigued than I am mad anymore. I am mad when they try to do remakes. I mean, if you were to redo movies like The Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller, it's like, why? Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you remake those movies? Some remakes have always worked in the past. Movies like The Thing, The Maltese Falcon, and I know some of these are going way back, but those were remakes that were highly successful. And sometimes they work. But in today's world, I can't, like every couple months, a remade version of something from the 70s, 80s, or 90s is coming back, and I don't really understand it. I mean, is it really that hard to come up with original ideas anymore? I think there's just some things that were successful because of the time they came out. The Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, were just a great representation of that time. I still have some of my original action figures, all kinds of things. I mean, Turtle Mania was all over the place. There are just some things that should not be brought back in terms of trying to get it back into the world. You're trying to market it to kids that don't really... They get this version, and it's like a very cheap imitation. I think things like, for example, The Simpsons don't work anymore to me because I think The Simpsons were synonymous with the 90s, and I think very early 2000s. Whether the show got bad or not, that's up to you, but I just never found it appealing anymore because the 90s had ended and time sort of shifted. I mean, there's always those few years that transition between decades, but it just doesn't feel the same anymore. And that's sort of how I feel with a lot of these remakes. It's like they don't feel right because they're not the time anymore. They're not... When you take a classic 80s movie like for example, Back to the Future, if you were to remake that now, I mean, sure, the effects would be awesome, whatever. You could, instead of a DeLorean, you could, put a Ferrari, I don't know. But it's never going to feel the same way. I don't really understand what Hollywood's trying to prove, except that it's cheaper to make, bad remakes and you just throw a couple of actors in and call it a day. I mean, if they make a movie for $100 million and they bring in $300 million worldwide, they're making a huge profit. Not to say that greed and money certainly never factored into the past. I'm not going to become one of these people that are like, oh, well, back in my day, everything was about making great movies. It wasn't. But it does feel very, I don't even know what the word would be, weird, cheap, hurtful, that they continue to make these remakes, and I don't even know why. I guess it's just easier. I don't know. So I'm curious to see what people think. I think depending on the movie, if you love a movie, you're going to be outraged if it's remade. If you don't care about a movie, you may not care if it's remade, or maybe you're just tired of all this in general. I went and saw the prequel to The Thing, and it seemed very similar to The Thing, but not better than The Thing of 1980. But so it's like, why make it? So I'm curious to see what other people have to say. I think it's one of these topics that, when you're around people that think the same as you sort of have closed-minded views. I'm curious to see what you guys think in terms of, yeah, it's okay to make remakes as long as there's less, or stop, being a baby about this. So tell me what you think. Hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, whatever, and I'm sure I'll respond. Send me an email. And, maybe I'll do a follow-up video down the road, especially if they make some of these other movies like Top Gun 2 and so on. So let me know what you guys think. All right, I'll talk to you later. See ya.